Think different, live different. B180.
B180. Firstly, Bodie, welcome to B180. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
So where are you based? I was trying to work it out with the time zone. Are you in Nashville?
I was about 5 hours ago, but I just flew back home to Orange County, California.
Nice. Oh, is that where all the fires were?
We're about 40 minutes south of the fires. But yeah, a lot of good friends were affected by it. It's been really tough time for a lot of amazing people.
Yeah, it's so sad. It looks pretty nuts from the footage that we've seen. Is it pretty what's the vibe there? It's been really encouraging to see the community, especially the church community, come together and really help give back and just help wherever there's needs. But yeah, it's been pretty catastrophic, pretty heartbreaking for thousands of people. Yeah, we're praying for you guys.
No, I appreciate it.
Let's find out a little bit more about you, because there are a few Aussies that are quite new to BODIE. So can you tell us a bit about your background in music and a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I grew up in Los Angeles to performer parents that were, in the acting, music, TV world. And
Nice.
So just from an early age, I fell in love with all things art and expression. And I just never really departed from the stage. I grew up in church too, so just kind of always was not only in love with performing, but performing in the sense of worshiping something so much more important than anything that the earth could bring. So I've never been a foreigner or a stranger to the idea of figuring out the best and healthy ways to combine the two. So I fell in love with making music that honors Christ. So I'm able to worship while still being able to perform and express who I am. And that's kind of been my journey.
That's so cool. And for those that don't know, you were on The Voice in the US back in 2002. What was it like as a Christian being on a secular television show, and how has that kind of changed your life from there to now?
Yeah, it was a really experience. It's crazy. It's already been 2.5 years now since I was on it, but just I wasn't expecting to even make it on the show, to be honest. I wanted to pursue it because I felt in my heart that I was supposed to. And then seeing myself not only make it through, but being able to make it all the way to the end and sing it in the finale was such an honor. And it unlocked a lot of just encouragement and affirmation, even in my own heart and in what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And I had the honor of singing a worship song in the finale too. That really just like I said, it unlocked a lot for me. It really helped me kind of understand where God wanted me and wants to use me. Prior to that, I wasn't even doing Christian music. I was working at a church leading worship, but my music was more general and just kind of more general audience. And so even through The Voice, I kind of found my new lane of where I wanted to just give my all towards. And so it really changed my life in different ways than you would expect it to.
Yeah,
I'd say.
Wow. That's so cool. Did you find it hard being a Christian? Like, did people judge you differently?
I've heard that was the experience for a lot of people on these types of shows. For me, it was quite the opposite. They were really, really honoring and really affirming, and they let me share a lot on national television, which was so pretty
cool.
wild.
Yeah. What an awesome opportunity, hey?
Totally.
So we're playing your track, Whisper in the Wind, on V180. It's definitely a favourite. Can you tell us all about this song and how it all came together?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for playing it. I'm really proud of the song, and it means a lot to me. Yeah, I wrote it with some friends in Nashville, and I wanted to talk about kind of the often unaddressed issue that I think young believers as well as seasoned believers can catch themselves being in this mental processing of, God, I thought you were supposed to look this way or move this way because I've seen you move or look this way in the past. Why aren't you doing this now? An example would be
maybe a youth camp. You know, a youth student goes to a youth camp and just has this mountaintop, you know, groundbreaking, earth shattering, just incredible experience with God. And then they come home and it's the same house that they left. You know, maybe their parents are still divorced and they're still struggling with depression, whatever it is. And I think, and oftentimes where we have these mountaintop experiences with God and then we come back to our quote unquote everyday life, we question, okay, was that even real? If God did this in this situation, where are you now? Do you really even care about me? If I'm praying prayers, you know, and I saw a miracle 2 years ago, but now I'm praying for a miracle and I'm not seeing him move. I'm not seeing God look the way that I think he should look. So anyways, I wanted to write a song that acknowledges that just as much as God's going to move in the big, gusty, windy moments, he moves more often than not in the stillness, in the quiet place, in the moments that are slow and still, in the whispers of his spirit.
I love that. I think sometimes we tend to box God in that, you know, he's there in worship at church or, as you said, like at a youth camp or a mission trip or something, and you come back and you're like kind of just waiting for the next spiritual moment that you can go to get a bit of God, but you kind of forget that he is there in just everyday life, hey?
Totally.
You teamed up with Grace Spinion as well for a remix. That one's coming out pretty soon. How did that collab come together?
Yeah, I have it's a 4-song remix project, kind of honoring a couple of the songs from my past EP.
Awesome.
And one of those songs is a dancey, just crazy remix of Whisper in the Wind. And it's featuring my friend Gracie Binion. And I'm just a fan of her. I think she's so cool. And it just kind of worked out. We reached out like, hey, do you want to do this song with me? And she's like, yeah, let's do it. So now we're fast friends, and she absolutely knocked it out of the park with her verse, and I'm really excited. It comes out. It'll be out a week from today.
Woohoo! Can't wait.
It comes out on the 7th.
Do you like collaborating with others when you write songs or when you perform, or are you more like a solo writing guy?
Oh, you know, it's funny. Before signing to Provident, the record label I'm with now, I wrote with my wife and maybe one other person.
That's amazing.
Like, it was very, very solo, very independent. And ever since signing to Provident, it opened the door to, you know, having to kind of push my comfortability a little bit and you know, get a little bit more vulnerable. And I've just fallen in love with collaborative writing. So now I'd say 9 out of 10, if not 10 out of 10 songs are always collaborative in the writing process and the production process. I love it. I just got back a couple hours ago from a writing trip out in Nashville, and it's so fun.
So cool. Yeah. Do you still write with your wife then, or?
I do. I try to. Now she probably speaks into every single song I've ever written. So yes, but not as formally as she used to.
Yeah, that's so cool. And your remix project, Happier to Be Here, is also getting ready to be launched. Can you tell us about that one?
Yeah. So the song with Gracie is kind of the first single to come off of the project. So that one comes out February 7, and then the other 3 will come out March 7. And I don't want to give too much away yet, but it's I'll say this: it's 2 remixes of 2 different songs, totaling in 4 songs. And there's another surprise feature on there as well. So it's a cool little project.
Oh wow! Can't wait for that one. Very cool.
Yep.
So how many instruments do you play? Because I've heard you're quite talented. Can you talk us through what you can actually play?
Oh man. Well, as a young kid,
if you can remember them all.
I'm adequate at many, but I'm not a pro at any of them. But I started on clarinet and alto sax and baritone sax, and then moved over to ukulele and guitar, and then from there branched out to bass and drums and piano. So I'm almost proficient at most, but not. You know, I stick to singing and guitar for the most part.
I guess the real question is, what don't you play?
Most.
Can you play violin?
No, I want to. Violin and trumpet are like the next 2 things I'd love to learn.
Yeah, no, my husband's an amazing violin player, but it's so
cool.
hard to learn. I didn't no way can I do that. So cool.
It's so cool.
Can you tell us a bit about your track No? Because I can totally relate to this one. Yeah.
I wrote that. That is the one song off my EP that was not written in Nashville, but rather it was just written in my house with my good friend Aaron Ferrer. And
we were just in similar, different circumstances, but similar seasons of life. He's a single dude. I'm married with 3 kids, but we're both going through a similar kind of identity crisis in a way of just kind of desperate. And I found us both kind of tearing up on the couch as we're writing this song, just talking about like, man, like I don't want to waste my life or waste even a season of doing something if it's not what God has for me. Like, I don't want to be making music, performing, or I don't want to be, chasing whatever career if it's not what God wants for me, if it's not what's best for me. And we're both so desperate just to know what God's will and call on our lives was. And that's essentially the song. It's just, God, I just want to move you. Like, I just want to stay in love with you. I want to do the things that you've called me to do and do them well. And I don't want to waste time being distracted with other things.
I can totally relate to that. I've had heaps of moments in my Christian walk, especially when you get to a standstill where it's like, do we move? Do I take this job? You just want to know what God wants, and you just want him to audibly tell you sometimes. How do you know?
Yeah.
Like, have you come to a point that you like have a big decision like that and you have to ask God, like, how do you know what is his will for your life?
Yeah, I think the big thing, and a fun fact, I get the honor of, I'm an adjunct professor at a Christian university here in town. And I talk to my students a lot about that because that's a big question, especially, as a 19-year-old kid figuring out that, what's next for their life. And I say, I'm like, look, God doesn't always give you the luxury of picking for you, but sometimes he'll make it very clear. But I'd say more often than not, it's up to you and your discernment. And what that means and what that's kind of meant for my life is I walk through every door that's open until I don't feel peace anymore, or until he says no, or the opportunity goes away. And if there's ever, if I feel like on my heart I'm supposed to write songs, I'm going to write songs until I don't feel peace, or I don't see the favor on the songs, or God deliberately says, do not do this anymore. And so far, he hasn't done any of those things. So that's why I'm still doing what I'm doing. But that's kind of how I pursued this season of my life, is just walking in obedience and being as receptive as possible to his voice. That way I know that when I don't feel peace anymore, that I'm not supposed to be in that room anymore.
Yeah, wow. That's great. That's great advice. When I listen to your lyrics, you're quite creative, and I can tell that you've put a lot of time and effort into your lyrics. Do you go through heaps of drafts before you actually get to your final one, or is it just like a natural talent that you just sit down and it's done, Like, how do you put a song together?
I'd be lying if I said that the latter. Just being able to sit down and just crank it out. And there's some writers that I work with that they can crank out a song in nuts. 30 minutes. And that's not to knock that style of writing, but I really, it's important to me to really take my time, and not just on the creative level, but just on like the intentional level of like, I want these lyrics to not just be poetic and airtight from a songwriting standpoint, but I really want these words to really be what I want to communicate to the audience, to the listener. So one thing that I've learned from writing with my new friends in Nashville and kind of finding my tribe out there that I like to write with is, we'll sit on one line for like, even last night, we sat on one line for like 40 minutes. Like, if it's not there, it's not there. So we're always trying to beat the idea and pick the absolute best way to say what we're trying to say. So, usually songs come between 2 hours to 2 months. It just kind of depends.
Yeah, wow. How about the track God Did? Can you tell us how that one came together and what that's about?
Yeah, I wrote that one with Mitch Wong, amazingly talented human being, and Austin Davis, just another epic, legendary producer and drummer and songwriter. And just hanging out at Austin's house. I think Mitch had the idea. He was like, what if we did something called God Did? Honestly, I don't even know who thought of the idea, but we just kind of went on this, like, what if we made this weird rock, I don't even know what you'd call it, like alternative pop fusion-y thing, and just sing about testimony of how God put a name on me, gave me new life, gave me my feet to stand on. And that one came a little bit more naturally, just because it's pretty easy to brag about what God's done.
Yeah, totally. And we like to ask all the artists this question: what is your favorite Bible verse and why?
I love that. Well, I'm looking at mine right now. It was my first ever tattoo.
Acts 20:24. However, I consider my life worth nothing. My only goal is to finish the race and complete the task of sharing the good news of Christ.
Wow.
And I, in high school and early into college, I was a track athlete. And I identified with that I consider in comparison, I consider my life worth nothing compared to what you've called me to, just to complete the race of this time on earth. And that race is to literally invite, encourage, and inspire others into knowing who Jesus is.
So powerful. Got goosebumps when you read that. So good. And what's next for BODIE? What do you got planned for 2025?
Oh man, I'm so fired up to say I'm days away, if maybe a week away, from announcing my next leg of my U.S. tour. Hopefully to get over to y'all soon, but we're really excited to do some more shows in the early spring, as well as I have a pretty big project coming out. I don't want to really reveal too much, but a lot of songs are going to be coming out this year, and I'm already almost done writing them, and it's really, really good stuff. I'm really, really excited for you guys to hear it.
Awesome. And any plans to come to Australia in the near future or at all?
That would be a dream. Dream come true. As soon as the opportunity comes, I'm there.
Oh, it'd be so good. We see all these awesome US tours and we're like, man, they never come to Australia.
I know. Soon enough.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time on the show. We so appreciate it. And enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, BODIE.
Thank you. Talk soon.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.